Imagine standing in front of a mirror, but instead of your usual reflection, there's a stranger staring back, someone who feels unsettling, yet oddly familiar. Not a ghost, not a trick of the mind, but a version of you that's been there, all along, buried under layers of fear, expectations, and pretending. What if I told you? This stranger holds the key to everything you're meant to be, that the person you're afraid to become might actually be the most powerful version of you? Carl Jung, one of psychology's brightest minds, brought us a powerful idea. Each of us carries a shadow, a hidden side we suppress, deny, or try to forget. This shadow was shaped by the world around you, family, society, life experiences, all pushing certain thoughts, emotions, and instincts into the dark corners of your mind. But here's the twist. The more we avoid our shadow, the tighter its grip becomes, and the moment we finally face it, something shifts. We tap into strength, we gain clarity, we reach a kind of self-awareness most people never even come close to. This isn't just some theory, it's a real force, shaping how you choose, how you love, how you feel, whole or fractured. Ever wonder why you feel stuck? Why you hold yourself back? Why you fear your own voice or doubt your own worth? It all traces back to the pieces of you you've left in the dark. But as we move forward, you'll see why meeting this feared version of yourself might be the most life-changing decision you'll ever make. You'll learn how to turn fear into fuel, how to turn second-guessing into unstoppable action, and how to build an identity that no one, not even your inner critic, can shake. And finally, you'll uncover a truth so deep it will forever change how you see yourself. But first, we need to ask, why do we fear our own power? Strange, isn't it? Most of us think we're afraid to fail, afraid to be rejected or judged. But what if the real fear is that we might actually succeed in ways we never thought possible? What if we become so capable, so brilliant, that it rattles the version of ourselves we've held onto for years? Through history, many saw this hidden truth. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once said, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." And Marianne Williamson reminded us, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear isn't that we're inadequate. It's that we're more powerful than we ever imagined. But why do we hold back from that power? Then why? Answer starts in childhood. Think about the messages you heard growing up. Were you told to stay quiet, to not stand out, to shrink yourself when you dared to dream big? Were your ambitions called selfish? Was your anger met with guilt? Over time, these messages shape us. We learn to hide the parts of ourselves that others find too loud, too bold, too much. But those parts don't just disappear. They go underground, into the shadow. The shadow isn't just where our flaws live. It's also where our most powerful traits lie, wild and unrefined. That ambition you hid, it could become unstoppable. That anger you silenced, it could fuel your passion. That confidence you buried, it could rise as unshakable worth, but only if you're brave enough to face what you've avoided. Jung called this journey individuation, the path to becoming whole. To individuate means to reclaim all that you are. Not just the light, but the dark too. It's not about getting rid of your shadow. It's about understanding it, using it, owning it. It's about looking at your reflection and not flinching. But there's more. This shadow isn't just personal, it's collective. It lives in our cultures, our systems, our beliefs. Throughout history, those who embraced their full selves, despite the cost, were the ones who left their mark. Revolutionaries, artists, visionaries. They were mocked, feared, punished, but they changed everything. So now ask yourself, what if you stopped running from your own strength? What if you stopped hiding the parts of you that the world told you to dim? Who would you become if you stopped fearing your own potential? This is where real transformation begins. In the next part, we'll dive into the exact steps to uncover your shadow, to integrate it, and to use it as the foundation of a power unlike anything you've known. And remember, what comes at the end of this journey will shift everything you thought you knew about yourself. But if you truly want to grow, you have to go deep into your own mind, into your own chaos, because there is no evolution without confrontation, no self-mastery without facing your inner storm. And here's the greatest paradox of all, the very version of yourself you fear becoming might just hold the key to your deepest strength. But how do we start this journey? How do we face our shadow without being swallowed by it? Step 1 is awareness, learning to notice what we've buried, pushed down, or tried to forget. Carl Jung believed that anything left in the unconscious still controls us, quietly, invisibly, shaping our emotions, our reactions, our choices. But the moment we bring those parts into the light, we begin to take back our power. Look at your own life. Have you ever reacted in a way that surprised even you? A sudden burst of anger, a wave of fear that made no sense, a resentment that came out of nowhere. Those aren't random. They're messages from your shadow, unhealed pieces of your mind calling out to be seen. One of the most effective ways to start shadow work is simple. Watch yourself. Notice when emotions rise. Pay attention to your triggers. You feel envy when someone else wins? Irritation at certain personalities? An automatic dislike for specific behaviors in others? Chances are, these reactions are mirrors. They show you what you've been hiding from in yourself. Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Often, the traits we criticize in others are the same ones we've been told to reject in ourselves. If arrogance makes your skin crawl, maybe you were taught to dim your own confidence. If ambition bothers you, perhaps you've been taught to fear your own drive. If someone's aggression rattles you, maybe it's because you've never felt safe enough to own your own power. This is why shadow work is tough. It demands honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. But here's the gift in it. Once you see these hidden parts, you get to choose what to do with them. You no longer have to be ruled by what you refuse to face. Integration doesn't mean giving in to every dark impulse. It means accepting that these parts exist and then channeling them with intention. Take anger, for example. Most people fear their own anger. They see it as dangerous, destructive, but anger itself isn't the problem. It's just a force, one that, when directed with purpose, can become your strength, motivation, boundaries. These don't come from silence. They're born from facing what's real, even the emotions we've been taught to fear. When anger is ignored, it festers into resentment, into quiet bitterness, into words said with a smile but meant like a blade. But when anger is seen and accepted, it transforms into fire, into movement, into change. The same goes for ambition. So many people fear it, afraid they'll be judged, called selfish, told they're too much. So they shrink. They hide their hunger. And inside it eats away, turning into regret, frustration, emptiness. But ambition, when owned, becomes purpose. It becomes drive. It becomes the force behind great creation. Now, imagine this. What if you no longer feared your own power? What if you could stand fully in your strength? No guilt, no hesitation, just presence. How different would your life be? What choices would you finally make if self-doubt didn't hold the reins? This is shadow integration. It's not about perfection. It's not about being good. It's about reclaiming the pieces of you were told not to be and using them as fuel for your own becoming. It's about stepping into wholeness, not staying trapped in fragments. And this path isn't just personal. It's collective. We've all been raised in systems that train us to conform, to obey, to smooth out the edges and bury what might disturb the norm. This is why those who break free, who embrace their full untamed selves, are remembered. Not for fitting in, but for daring to live complete. They're the ones who change everything. They step into power, not because it's easy, but because they refuse to live small. And in the next part, we'll explore how shadow integration doesn't just transform individuals. It transforms cultures, societies, entire generations. We'll dive into stories from the past and from now of people who faced their shadows and in doing so changed the world around them. And at the end of this path comes the most powerful truth of all, one that will shake the foundations of how you've seen yourself until now. Throughout time, the ones who made a mark weren't always nice or popular or accepted. They were whole. They didn't pretend to be less. They didn't hide what made others uncomfortable. They looked their shadow in the eye and used its power to carve their names into history. Think of the revolutionaries, the artists, the leaders who refused to live as half versions of themselves. Were they perfect, free from flaws, fear, or darkness? Not even close. They were human. But instead of silencing their power, their drive, their anger, their rebellion, they shaped it. They didn't reject their inner fire. They chose to use it. Jung once said that the biggest issue of modern life is that people are terrified of themselves, afraid of what they feel, afraid of what they want, afraid of how powerful they really are. So instead of stepping into their full potential, they shrink. They make themselves small to fit into the molds handed to them. But what happens when this fear isn't just personal, when it becomes collective? When a whole society buries its shadow, it doesn't vanish, it simmers until it erupts. History shows us what happens when entire cultures repress their fear, anger, and desire. It doesn't dissolve, it gets projected. Suddenly there are enemies to blame, people to exclude, ideologies to worship, extremes to justify. All of it, fueled by what the culture refuses to face within itself, from authoritarian regimes to moral panics, to movements driven by fear. It all begins with a collective shadow ignored. But let's zoom in again. What about you? What happens when you push your own shadow aside? At first it's subtle, a quiet frustration, a vague dissatisfaction, a restlessness you can't name. You start turning down chances you know you could take. You keep yourself small. You start sabotaging your own momentum. And those hidden parts of you, they don't just stay quiet, they start creeping into your relationships. You lash out at others for the very traits you've buried in yourself. You end up in connections that mirror your own inner chaos, until one day you look around and realize you're not living your life. You're living a life built on fear, avoidance, and stories you never questioned. But here's the turning point. Once you see your shadow, you can do something about it. Jung believed that confronting your shadow isn't just helpful, it's necessary for real freedom, because until you own those hidden parts, you're not actually choosing. You're being moved by forces you haven't even named yet. This is why integrating your shadow isn't just self-help. It's reclaiming your life. It's waking up to the unconscious patterns that have quietly guided your every step. You are not just the polished version of yourself that the world sees. You are also the anger you hide, the ambition you've buried, the desires you pretend not to feel, and the moment you stop running from them, you gain the power to choose what they become. Picture yourself at a crossroads. One path is safe. It leads back to what you know, the version of life that fits the story you've been told about who you're allowed to be. The other path, uncharted. It leads you into the parts of yourself you've never dared to explore. And though that path is harder, full of questions, discomfort, and deep self-examination, it's the only one that leads to real power. Because here's the raw truth. You will never feel whole until you embrace the very parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime rejecting. The strength you admire in others. It's already inside you, waiting to be seen. The success you think is out of reach. It's not. It's just hiding behind the edges of your unclaimed potential. In the final part, we'll go deep into how to do this work, how to turn fear into fuel, doubt into focus, hesitation into unstoppable motion. And at the end of it, you'll hear one final truth, the kind that shifts not just your sense of self, but your view of the entire world. Everything we've uncovered so far has brought you here, to this exact moment. You now see that the version of yourself you once feared isn't your enemy. It's your untapped strength, your creative fire, your boldness, the part of you that's ready to lead the revolution from within. Through psychology, history, and lived experience, one truth repeats itself. Growth only happens when you face what you've avoided. Freedom only comes when you integrate what you've rejected and the self you've ignored. That's the version of you holding the map to everything you've ever wanted. So where do you begin? How do you take all this and actually live it? You start with radical honesty, brutal, beautiful self-clarity. You must be willing to see yourself fully. No filters, no edits. That means not just celebrating what you like about yourself, but owning what you've buried too, your patterns, your fears, your self-sabotage. They aren't random, they're signals. And if you're brave enough to listen, they'll guide you to what still needs to be healed and claimed inside you. Jung famously stated, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is the harsh reality most people spend their entire lives avoiding. They blame circumstances, they blame bad luck, they blame others, but they never stop to realize the greatest obstacles are often self-created. The moment you accept responsibility for your inner world, you reclaim the power to change it. So, how do you make the unconscious conscious? One of the most powerful tools is self-inquiry. Ask yourself the hard questions. Answer them with brutal honesty. What qualities in others irritate or trigger me the most? What emotions do I struggle to express or even feel? What parts of myself do I try to hide from others? What do I secretly desire but feel ashamed to admit? Where in my life do I feel stuck? And what role am I playing in that stagnation? These questions aren't designed to make you feel guilt or shame. They're meant to reveal what's been hidden, because once something is seen clearly, it can no longer control you from the shadows. The next step is ownership. Once you've identified your shadow, you must take full responsibility for it. No more projecting it onto others. No more pretending it doesn't exist. No more letting it dictate your actions unconsciously. The ambition you suppress, the anger you deny, the power you disown. These are not flaws, they are fuel, they are raw, untapped strength. Think of someone you admire, someone with presence, confidence, magnetism. They are not powerful because they are flawless. They are powerful because they've made peace with all parts of themselves. They've accepted their nature, rather than fighting it. That's the difference between those who lead and those who follow. Those who create and those who remain stuck. Those who fully live and those who merely exist. You will uncover new layers of your shadow again and again, and each time you'll face a choice to suppress or to integrate, to fear or to embrace, to remain fragmented or to step into wholeness. And now, we arrive at the final revelation. The truth this journey has been building toward from the very beginning. The person you fear to be is not just a part of you. It is you. Not the you shaped by external expectations, not the version molded to fit society's roles, but the full, unfiltered, powerful individual you were always meant to become. And the reason you fear this version of yourself is because stepping into it means letting go of everything that kept you small. It means releasing the safety of limiting beliefs, abandoning outdated identities, and leaving behind the comfort of playing a role someone else wrote. For you, it means no more excuses, no more waiting for permission, no more waiting for the right moment to claim your place in this world. So now I leave you with one final question. A question only you can answer. Are you ready to become the person you were always meant to be? Tell me, who have you been too afraid to become? Comment down below.